and welcome to a new episode of Entre Artistas. Today we have Bobby Cronin. He's a multidisciplinary, multi-award-winning composer, lyricist, book writer, music producer, arranger, director, and educator. I will say his whole background and achievement because it will be possible. But just so you know, he wrote the song for Emmy, Grammy, and Tony winner Billy Porter and Tony winner Jordan Roth, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So how is everything going, Bobby?
It's good. You know, the world is in a weird place right now, but other than that, I'm doing okay.
Okay, nice. So last time I saw you was at the end of 2015. Yeah, it's almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so how is the industry going? How has it changed since I left?
You know, it was doing great. Broadway was really thriving, and COVID hit, and it really just stopped everything. And during COVID, a lot of different organizations let their voices be heard, and when theater started coming back, a lot of the people that make the decisions of what shows get put on Broadway did some really smart things and gave opportunities to people that may not have had the opportunities before.
Yeah.
And it opened up more of sort of multicultural theater in New York. Now, that didn't necessarily sell a lot of tickets at first. I mean, nothing was selling tickets anyway because COVID it was really a very strange time. But I would say in the last maybe 2 years, the market is it's a very different industry. It's a very different, in a weird way, I wish I was teaching at the New York Film Academy now, because I love that I had so many students from different parts of the world. But back in 2015, I think the casting people weren't very open to doing something different. Now that has changed, which is great.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, like, I kind of wish I could go back and see some of my former students and be like, now is your time. Now go to these open calls. They will look at you for real. You know, what I love about theater is that they're now allowing people to just be who they are. There's like almost always a role or two for a non-binary actor. There's always a handful of roles for people of color, even accents, which I'm sure you remember us being like, we got to work on the accents if you're going to stay in New York. And because I'm friends with a lot of the teachers there, we would often lament, like we would leave class and meet up for a drink or something and be like, I wish this industry was different.
Yeah.
Now it is. It is now. It had to. And I think it took a global pandemic of literally the world shutting down for them to rethink, are they giving everyone the same opportunity? And the answer is they weren't. I've seen things go in a positive direction in one way and somewhat in a negative direction, but I know they're trying to fix it all, and it's always a work in progress. And I know that everyone involved in the theater industry specifically, they want people to have a fair chance. They want actors and writers and designers to have a fair opportunity. And that's not really how it used to be. So that is something that I think has been a very positive change, is that there's there's more opportunity for and I'm kind of putting myself in that category as like, you know, I started as a writer later in my career. I was a director for 12 years. I always wrote. It was like for fun. It was my hobby. Then I got an opportunity to, I was an associate artistic director at a theater in Vermont called Northern Stage, where I was asked to adapt A Christmas Carol into a stage play. And I jokingly said, "Oh, you mean a musical, right? It's A Christmas Carol. It has to be a musical." And the artistic director looked at me and she said, "Do you write musicals?" And I said, "Well, I mean, I write songs. I've always written songs, and I have a degree in music and theater." She's like, "You do?" I was like, "Yes, I do." So that sort of changed my trajectory. And in a weird way, the entertainment industry, no matter what part of the entertainment industry, it can be a bit ageist, which means that if you're older, you're looked at as insignificant. You're looked at as not having like your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world, and I just think that's not true at all. So I am grateful that there have been opportunities for those of us that have been overlooked before. Now, I'm very lucky. I'm a white guy, right? I understand the privilege that comes with that, very much so. So I can't sit here and cry that I haven't gotten the opportunities that everybody else has, because I have. But I do know that I've been passed over for many things because people know my age.
Yeah, I remember, well, to the audience, he was my teacher for professional preparation. Bobby Cronin for me, and I say this with so much love, is the pure definition of tough love. Yeah, he likes discipline. He is a perfectionist. It's amazing. To work with him is amazing, but a little bit scary, because if you're not prepared, my God, you just done.
Yeah. It's funny. I teach now not in a classroom. I teach privately, right?
Nice.
So one-on-one, and I get a very different response from my students now. They're like, "You're so fun, you're so funny, you're so positive." And I'm like, I've never been told that before. I've always been told that I'm intimidating. But you're right, it's because I am somewhat of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And I do believe in tough love. I do believe in saying to somebody things like, if you want to do this, you really have to work hard.
Right.
And you have to make sacrifices. Like, do you remember the class that we did on budgeting? Of like budgeting of how much money it costs a month? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And like people were crying, and I remember saying at the beginning, because I did it probably 5 years, so that would be like 10 semesters of doing it, where I started class with, "This is going to make you cry, and I am not doing it to make you cry, I'm doing it to make you aware of just what it is to do this." I grew up very lower middle class, like just above poor. Like, we had some money, but not a lot of money. We had one bathroom for 7 of us. We had no backyard. Like, we didn't have a lot. So when I moved to New York City, I counted every penny to make sure that I could exist, you know? And I wanted to share that. That is something I've always been passionate about, that if I know something, I want to share it with people. It doesn't mean that it's correct. It just works. It's something that worked for me, so I want to share with you something that worked for me. I remember, like, I had what were those called? Oh, like a notebook, basically, where I would write down everything I bought, how much it cost, how much I had left in my bank account. I wrote down everything because I wasn't working a full-time job, right? My full-time job was trying to be in the entertainment industry. So I would have to try to find jobs that would make me money in a short amount of time. And realizing, I don't know if enough people know this. And so when I started at the New York Film Academy, that was one of the things that got me the job, is I said, I've always wanted to teach a business class on like how to exist in New York in the entertainment industry. And one of those things in particular was the finances. And then the other thing that I loved in that class, by the way, was when we did the sort of fake agent interviews.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember going to agent interviews and being so excited that I was going to meet with an agent, and I would leave and be like, I failed. That was awful. I can talk to anybody. I have one of those personalities. I'm the person that people on the street will stop and ask for directions, right? I found that when I would go to these agent auditions that they were more like, why should I have you?
Yeah.
Which would make me like put up a wall and get really nervous, and I would end up saying things that made no sense, and then I would leave the meeting and be like, oh my God, why did I say that? I should have said something else. Then I started doing practice meetings. I would have a friend be like, I need you to be the agent and pretend to interview me.
Yeah.
So when I started at the Film Academy, there wasn't that class. That class didn't exist. I had brought my British agent over to do a master class, and he really liked some of the students, and he met with them. And I remember him saying to me, yeah, they're talented, but they don't know how the business works. And I remember saying, oh, we don't have a business class. And he said, well, you should make one. So I approached the powers that be and explained what my agent had said, and they said, do you want to do that? And I said, yes, I've wanted to do a business class for so long. And it ended up being my favorite class because it's hard. Being an acting or singing teacher is hard,
Yeah.
right? Because part of your job is to guide an actor to a place, to guide them to find something within themselves. And sometimes you have to push, sometimes you have to coddle, sometimes you have to make them cry, sometimes you have to make them laugh, sometimes you have to make them angry, right? There are all these tactics that we would do and I sometimes would leave a class after teaching an acting class and being like, oh, God, I didn't really enjoy that. But I always loved the business class.
Yes, I remember that, and I want to share with you. Maybe you don't know, the audience as well, how your class impact my life, my artistic life. Because what you're talking about budget, and I remember, and I said that to my parents after I left New York. You said, oh, if you are not good in this, don't cry, just do something, right? Go to pay extra classes, go on to networking. So I remember a lot of times, in that semester that I skipped either lunchtime or dinner to pay that class, to pay that extra class. So that was very difficult for me because sometimes I went to bed with so much hungry, but I learned new things. So it's a sacrifice that you taught me, that sometimes you have to choose. You don't have all the possibilities, all the money. So when I told that to my parents, they were like, they went crazy and they told me, why did you do that? But they didn't understand at the beginning. But I understood what you taught us, so it was amazing. Yes, he told me all the time, you need to muscle up. You are too slender, so do it. Work on your accent. But all of that helped me. Also, you talk about one thing, but if I don't recall wrong, is your money note or your belt note.
Yeah, your money note. Yeah.
So I said, okay, which one I want to be my money note? So I've been working on my C5, and now I have it, so I can say,
nice.
My money note.
I love that.
I remember that you said your money note, it's the best you can do, but not also that. It's you have to be different of all money notes, right?
Yes.
I remember you taught us all of that. So I said, oh, which one is very difficult and not everyone has it? C5. Let's work on that.
Very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to share that anecdote with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's funny. I get messages from former students a lot.
Yes.
And it's that class.
Yeah.
That is the class that I get so many. Seriously, I will take screenshots of messages that I get and send it to my mom. Because sometimes, it's hard. This industry is hard for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And it can be very selfish. And sometimes you can feel very lonely in it and almost insignificant at times. So when you get a message from a student, or with you saying that, it's such a nice feeling to know that you did make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice to know. Here's a great one. This is so long ago. So I had a student when I used to teach at NYU.
Yeah.
I left NYU to help develop the New York Film Academy in their musical theater program. So when I was at NYU, I had a student, a female, who was very short, and she looked 12. And I said to her in class one day, you're probably going to end up doing Annie for a very, very long time, because in almost every production of Annie, they cast one adult, to play one of the orphans.
Okay.
And they become what's called the wrangler of the orphans. Well, she hated me. Like, she hated that I said that. She became actually like rude to me for the rest of the semester. And I got it. I said something that she didn't want to hear. Well, fast forward about 10 years, and I got an email from her saying, I owe you an apology. And I want you to know I was very angry at you for saying what you said. And I was even more angry at you because you were right. For the last 10 years, I have been doing Annie. Every production, I did a tour, I've done, and she's like, you were correct, and I apologize that I wasn't ready to hear it, but I want to thank you for letting me know that was actually an option, because no other teacher said that. And she said, so in retrospect, 10 years later, I want you to know how much I respect you and how grateful I am that you were honest with me. And I need to tell you how apologetic I feel for misunderstanding what you were trying to explain to me. So I actually think I cried when I got that message, because I remember her and I remember saying it, and I remember the room. You can feel the energy in a room change, but the energy got like really cold. Yeah. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But I believe, as you said, I believe in being honest. Yeah. I don't think it does anyone any good. Like, if I share my work with someone and they say, it's great, and that's it, I don't believe them. I find that that's just false. I want someone to say, oh, I really like a lot of this. There's one song in that show. I'm not sure. Can you explain like why you did that? Or maybe that it's just a little too high. Maybe you want to lower the score. That is exciting to me. Yeah. Versus someone saying, it's great, you're perfect. Because I don't think that's true.
The truth is, you have a Hawkeye, because I remember you told us all the time, okay, you're good for this role, for this role, for this role, you have potential for this. Don't look for this, you're never gonna get this, I'm sorry. And all my classmates were crying. I remember after class going to the bathroom and hitting the wall because I was so angry that I couldn't hear what I wanted to hear. But I think that helped me to grow. And what I'm trying to do with this channel is to make people to involve more in theater and promote musical theater. So you are in the mecca of musical theater, which is New York. It's the best place for musical theater. What do you recommend to all the directors, songwriters, actors from Latin America? And what do you recommend to all of that to all of them because you have all the experience. You've been awarded so many years with so many things. So what do you recommend to countries like Mexico or Latin America to start to grow and to be in the level that you are, that we aspire to be?
Well, I think the internet is a great place to start, right? You can get really good training without having to leave your home. There are places, now that costs money, I do understand that.
Yeah.
There are, though, sometimes you can do what's called auditing a class where you pay a lot less and you maybe don't get to like perform, but I always find that you can learn so much from just listening. It's funny, I was saying that I do a lot of private teaching. I find that every 6 months there's a yearning of me to get all of my students into a room together so they can learn from each other. Because I find when I'm in a private lesson with someone, I'll be like, oh, my student Billy is having this issue as well. Or, oh, I learned from another student that this idea worked for them. Maybe it will work for you. So I do understand that getting hands-on in a classroom is helpful, but there's so much out there that is available, and a lot for free, right? YouTube is a very, very helpful tool.
Yeah.
Very helpful. There are lots of people that, I learn all the time from social media or YouTube about production of music. It's something I got into later. It's something that now as a songwriter you have to do. At first you didn't, you just needed to play an instrument and kind of sing and write songs. Now you have to produce them. And so luckily I'm good at computers and have been enjoying learning a lot of the production work. But I also learned from like sitting in, like when we did the movie musicals.
Yes.
Just sitting in the room watching the engineer do the stuff. So sometimes it's like, can you get yourself into a room with someone that is doing the thing that you want to be doing? Now, so I would say a really good thing is just to start creating. If you're a creator, being an actor is a little different, but as a creator, a director, a writer, find people who have similar goals as you. Get into a room together and say, hey, let's write a song. Or, hey, let's write a scene. I find that there are no monologues out there for me. There are no plays that have good Mexican characters, and I would like a great monologue. I'm going to write it myself. Or I'm going to work with a writer and let's create something.
Yeah.
So, because in a way, that's what I did over here. And like I said, I was lucky because I had, this industry is not very big. So if you know one person, you can then know 3 people, and then you know 12 people, and then suddenly you know 50 people, and then 100 people, right?
Right.
So when I sort of switched into writing, because I was a director first, I knew a bunch of actors that I could call up and be like, hey, so I wrote this piece. I know it's weird, I wrote it, but yes, I did write it. I'm wondering, would you come and do a concert of my work?
Right.
So I built it up slowly of getting, like, I didn't go to the A-list people right away. I took my time. I wanted to have a body of work. So that's another thing is I would say, like, have things ready to go, almost like a model, right? Like a model doesn't move to New York without photos.
Yeah.
Or a model doesn't live in Mexico without photos. They have to have photos.
Yeah.
So if you're a writer, wherever you live in the world, write. Have some pieces that someone can look at. And if you're an actor, my suggestion is find the writers, find the directors. Reach out. Social media is a great tool. I remember talking about this in class too. Social media or emails are a really great tool.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't want to get an email from someone being like, I admire your work? We all want that. Everyone wants that, right? My point is reach out to people.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to it's so funny. I should take my own advice because I can be very nervous and very shy, very anxious about things. But I've found that most of the time, if you reach out to somebody, they will give you the courtesy of a reply.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, thank you so much, keep me posted on what you're doing, then there you go. You then tell that person, hey, I'm doing a show, or I live in Mexico. Do you know of any performances that you might be doing over there? Which might make that writer go, oh, I hadn't even thought about going to Mexico. Maybe I should go to Mexico and do a master class or something,
Yeah.
right? I think sometimes an invitation or a reminder to Americans that there's more to the world than America.
Some of my followers, when they knew that I was about to interview you, they told me, oh, please ask him this and this.
Okay.
I picked three questions. The first thing is, what do you think about Wicked on the big screen?
I have cried at every single commercial. I am so excited. I have a really deep connection to Wicked. Stephen Schwartz was very helpful in my career early on. He was very encouraging, and I've had so many friends in Wicked and have worked with probably 10 different alphabas, and I just love the show. Aside from it, I just love it. I think it's a great piece of theater, so I'm excited that it is being translated to the screen, and from what I've seen and from my friends that have seen it, they say that it is a masterpiece.
So the second one is, if you had the opportunity to see your work on the big screen, which one would it be? Choose one.
Oh, ooh.
Yeah, that was tough when they told me that. I was, wow, I don't know if he's going to answer that.
I think it's interesting. I have this rock piece that utilizes film in it's a theater piece, but it utilizes film in its storytelling. So I think that could be a really interesting piece on the screen. In fact, my agent has often thought it would be a really good series, like an 8-episode musical series. It's just a world I don't know enough about, honestly.
Okay.
But I mean, how cool would that be, right?
Yeah. And the last one, what are your thoughts about artificial intelligence substituting composers, writers, actors' faces? What are your thoughts about that?
I don't like it. Now, there are certain things that AI can do to make the process faster. Like, I mean, I don't even know if this is AI, but even spell check, right? Spell check is great. And things like in production work that I do for recording artists, just pressing a button to make all the vocals line up with AI, that's amazing. That saves me hours of time, but it's not creating the work. That's where I have a problem.
Yeah.
Because if you're creating work with AI, no, it's cheating.
Yeah, I was sure you were about to say that. So thank you very much, Bobby, for this interview. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you so much.
To the audience, I'm gonna put all the social media of Bobby down below. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Hopefully for next seasons we do more interviews so we can talk about more things, new things, all your new work. So thank you very much, Bobby. Thank you to the audience. See you next time. Success to everyone.